I'm Caden, here with my brother,
Cal,
and you're listening to Eating W's.
eat the W.
That's a W. Let's eat one. Let's eat one. That's a W.
So on today's episode of Eating W's, we have our preseason Week 2 recap. Now it's going to be very similar to what we talked about last week. We're just each going to give our thoughts on our favorite team, being the Vikings and Packers respectively, and then one big takeaway from this weekend of football. And luckily, Count had NFL Plus this week, so we got to see a lot more games. I'll have it next week, so we'll get to watch a lot of Week 3 too, and then there will be the bye week, and then we are in the regular season. So close. You can taste it at this point. We're so close.
Mm-hmm.
But before we jump into our preseason Week 2 recap, we have a couple of news things, starting off with a pretty sad injury for one of the rookie quarterbacks this year. Matt Corral suffers a Liz Frank injury, and that will hold him out for the entire 2022 season. So luckily, he probably wasn't going to see much playing time anyway, but he can get this injury out of the way when he's young and hopefully have better luck with injuries as his career goes on. So at least he's young. At least he's young.
Yeah, and he, like you said, he probably wasn't going to play this year. They named Baker the starter, so I mean it's going to be Baker Mayfield, Sam Darnold as the backup.
Exactly.
So he was going to be the third string anyways.
So hopefully he can heal up well from that. And then we have a pair of 7th round pick trades from each of our teams, the Vikings and Packers. Starting with the Vikings, we traded a 7th round pick to the Las Vegas Raiders, and in return got quarterback Nick Mullins. Now I was kind of surprised by this because I'll talk about it a bit more later, but I thought Mond actually looked okay enough to be a backup, but apparently they didn't like him. They wanted a little more, so they went and got Nick Mullins.
Yeah, and that's a pretty good pickup, I think, for the Vikings. He did really well for the 49ers when he had to start for them. And he almost beat the Packers 2 or 3 years ago when he had to start for them.
I agree. I'm a big Mond fan. I really do like Mond. But for a 7th round pick, I also do really like Nick Mullins. So good pickup. And then finally, the Packers traded away center guard Cole Van Landen to the Jacksonville Jaguars, and in return got a 7th round pick of their own, which they probably weren't going to use him much anyway, so might as well get a pick from him.
Yeah, it was just kind of they were going to have to release him anyways due to cut down days, so it was nice to get something out of him just in case. That's a 6th round pick, he was a 6th round pick, getting a 7th round pick out of him, so at least you're not cutting bait for nothing.
Yep, I agree. So now we will jump into the thoughts on our teams, and I'll let Kellen start with the Packers.
For the Packers game, the biggest takeaway I took from it is that Jordan Love continues to look like a backup quarterback. And quite frankly, even though that's not a bad thing, I just don't know if that's worthy of trading up in the first round to acquire a backup quarterback. So, I don't know. I mean, that's a lot to give up for just a backup quarterback.
You probably took a reach on him to begin with, so the fact that you moved up for him adds insult to injury. But as the years go on, I kind of realize a little more that you make sure you get your guy. So that was apparently their guy, whether it worked out or not. There's been picks that have been much worse or picks that have been much better from that draft class and every draft class.
He looks decent. I mean, he's still playing. Like you said, there's some draft picks from that class that are already out of the NFL. So the fact that he's still grinding, still giving it a go, he seems to be just content with the situation. So that's good. He's not rocking the boat or anything, demanding to start, demanding a trade. He's just taking it all in stride, and that's what you like to see out of a young player. The other thing that I really noticed in the Packers game is that Tyler Goodson, the former Hawkeye, is well on his way to winning the running back 3 job. Now, Aaron Jones and A.J. Dillon have yet to play this preseason, and I don't think that they are going to. So the running back 3 position is still up for grabs. And boy, did Tyler Goodson do everything he could to try to win that job. He had over 60 yards or over 40 yards rushing just in the first half.
At his size, it is crazy what he's been able to do so far, even just with it just being preseason. So love to see a former Iowa boy getting some work done in the NFL.
And Romeo Doubs also continues to show out. He had a couple of drops again, but he had a really nice catch on a fade in the back of the end zone where he had to jump up and get it with his fingertips. And when you see guys just make big-time catches like that, he continues to make these wow plays. in preseason and practice. So we'll see if he can translate it to the regular season. But he seems like he's looking to be the steal of the draft so far. There's a lot of beat writers that have said that the way that he's practices is that he doesn't practice like a rookie or a fourth round pick. This guy practices like he's been a veteran of the league for years. So we'll see. Maybe that's just, the fandom talking, but
well, even if it's
good to hear.
Even if it's exaggerated, you love to see a guy playing beyond his years like that. And I mean, if they can get a nice role receiver there, and then maybe have Christian Watson, who I'm still really excited to see. Do you know when he'll play?
He might play this
He might play week 3.
He
I'm
might.
really
He's
excited to see
activated from
Christian
the
Watson
pup list,
play because
so-
he is boom or bust. That guy has all the physical traits, but coming from a D2 school, you kind of wonder how he's going to be once the league really hits him.
Mhm.
But I'm excited to see what he can do. And then moving on to the Vikings side of it, I still really liked what I saw from our play call. The new defense, we haven't got to see much of it, but I really like the way Ed Donatel has it set up. And I still love the balance that we had between the run game and passing game, never leaning too much on either one and letting them work off each other with things like the play action. And a lot of people are talking crap about Kellen Mond. And stat-wise, he didn't have a great game. I want to say he played about 2.5 quarters, 2 quarters total. He only had about 100, 150 yards, no touchdown, 2 interceptions. But I thought he actually played much better than that stat line showed. He didn't really get many opportunities. We spent a lot of the time with the defense on the field. So when a quarterback can't really get in a rhythm like that, it really affects their game. You can see it at any level, whether starter, backup, preseason. So I don't think we should be quite as hard as people have been on Kellen Mond. But with Nick Mullins coming now, he'll probably will be that third string. But a few players that I really want to point out who I thought did really well was, first of all, Alexander Madison. He only played a couple of drives, I think maybe even only the first drive of the game. But he did really well. He looked dominant like he should as a starter rotational guy in a preseason game. But overall, I really liked how he looked. Rookie Ty Chandler out of UNC has been absolutely killing it this preseason and came out with another really, really good game against the 49ers. It is insane how elusive he is. Everyone struggles to bring him down, and you just love to see it. And another rookie is LSU lineman Ed Ingram, who he picked up in the 3rd round. He looked very solid, and he looked like he's definitely going to be a backup, if not maybe even go for that starting job. One play specifically was a screen pass where the running back didn't really play it very well, but Ed Ingram got out there, looked very agile, and was able to get a block, so you love to see it. And looking at the defensive side of the ball quick, some guys I wanted to point out is Patrick Jones, who was a 5th-round pick last year out of Pitt. Thought he had a really good game, got a sack, got a few other pressures. Caleb Evans, who was a rookie this year, I believe out of South Carolina, but I forgot to check. I think that might be wrong. He's a later-round pick. He's a tall, lengthy corner, and he really played well in the coverage game, but I really like how he played in the run support game. And then finally, T.Y. McGill, a veteran 3-tech defensive tackle who has experience playing in the nose front in that 3-down lineman scheme, a 3-4 scheme, has been killing it this preseason, and out of the 2 games has 4.5 total sacks in the first 2 preseason games. So a veteran there who's going to teach everybody up who isn't used to that 3-4 defense how to run it, and is going to get some rotation in the regular season as maybe a rusher 3-tech or nose
Veteran
tackle.
showing up in a preseason.
Love to see it.
Don't get that too often.
T.Y. McGill, he's been killing it.
Yeah, his name sounds familiar. He's been in the league for a little while.
Yeah, I want to say 5 or 7 seasons in, somewhere in that area. But
what about the center position? Is Garrett Bradbury still the center? I've heard that Schlockman might take his job.
I don't know. We are struggling at the center position. I'm really surprised we didn't take one with an earlier pick this year or target one in free agency, because I thought we would. Maybe, a guy that we could pick up in the 2nd or 3rd round, like Cam Jurgens out of Nebraska, is a guy I really had my eye on, and he's been killing it with the Eagles so far in preseason.
Except for that one video against Jordan Davis.
Oh, was that Cam Jurgens?
Yeah.
That was a rough one. But against other teams and non-freak of natures like Jordan Davis, he's been killing it this preseason, so I really wish we would have targeted him a little more. But overall, I think that Bradbury will end up taking it, and we'll see how he plays. This Rams-type offense and Kevin O'Connell have really helped other centers, such as Brian Allen, who was in Los Angeles last season, those kind of smaller athletic centers to find some fame and some success in the NFL. So maybe they can do it with Bradbury.
Yeah, hopefully they can turn that around for your sake, because
we need
that center position is
very
important.
Our offensive line is starting to look real good, except for that middle right there. It's looking a little shaky still. But I do think Bradbury has the talent. He just needs to put it all together. So now we will move on to our one takeaway, and I'll let Callan take that first.
My big takeaway I noticed from this second week of the preseason is that USFL players making NFL rosters. I mean, they're not made the NFL rosters yet, but they sure are making their case for them. Kevontae Turpin, the USFL MVP, is on the Dallas Cowboys and had not one but 2 kick returns for touchdowns, a punt return and a kickoff return. And he's going to make the team just as a kickoff specialist in his own. And I sure hope he doesn't show up against Green Bay because, well, as you'll figure out, our special team still ain't doing so hot.
Yeah.
But the other player that really stood out is for the Arizona Cardinals, Victor Bolden. And he's a USFL championship game MVP. He had 5 catches for 66 yards and was the leading receiver for the Cardinals for the second week in a row. So that's another USFL player that is getting a shot, getting a chance at the NFL, and really taking full advantage of his opportunity. In fact, the Packers have a USFL player, Micah Abernathy, had an interception and a tackle for loss. Also was just signed just a couple weeks ago. So another USFL player is ready to break out. So we'll see. It just goes to show that the NFL really could use a sort of minor league system and really help develop some of these younger players they're just so raw but so full of talent. And you're figuring out that USFL is kind of becoming that minor league system for the NFL.
I totally agree. Leagues like the USFL, XFL, stuff like that. Just something for those guys who are pursuing that dream of playing football for a living, to give them another chance, another breath of life, even when it looks kind of dull for them. You love to see it, and then exactly like Callan just talked about, that's just a handful of many guys who are on an NFL roster at the moment because of how they performed in the USFL. So you just really love to see it.
Both the MVP and the championship game MVP probably going to make rosters on an NFL team.
Yep, I agree. And then Callan nodded at it a little bit for my one takeaway is the Packers have this fancy new special teams coordinator, but the same old special teams. Now, it's not completely horrendous like it was last year, but if you watch that game they had this week, it was rough on just the decision-making part. I mean, they allowed multiple punt returns of 15 yards or over. They allowed at least one, if not multiple, kick returns of like 30-plus yards. That one was of about 50 yards, I believe, if I'm not mistaken. And then even on the other side, on their punt return team, I just saw bad decisions, letting the ball bounce near the end zone when they shouldn't have, catching it when they should have let it bounce out of the back of the end zone. Just small little tweaks like that, which is something I think that Rich Bisaccia can fix before the regular season, and once he actually has a true starting group of special teams out there on the field. But, you know, it just makes you a little nervous to see, because if they can't do it now and they can't get these backup guys who usually fill in the special teams roster, like kickoff and kick return and that type of stuff, to step up in the preseason, are you going to be able to get them to step up when the pressure's on in the regular season? So that'll be something to keep an eye on as the regular season comes closer.
I sure hope so. I'm still waiting for it to turn around from last season. I kept saying, once the playoffs come, the special teams will step up. Well, they took a step down.
The dead opposite, literally.
So, I mean, they haven't had any huge blunders like they did in the NFC divisional playoff game yet. No blocks yet, no missed field goals, or no blocked field goals. You know, pretty good operation on those, on the punts and field goals, but boy, just a lot of mental errors. Not having enough players on the field, having too many players on the field, you know, that can really affect the team there. That's either a 5-yard penalty or you're outmanned if you have not enough players on the field. And you can allow a big play or even a fake punt or a fake field goal if you don't have enough players on the field to line up with, get a hat on a hat.
Certainly, it's the details that matters with special teams. A little bit of a positive note to close that out, though. Your backup kicker, I can't remember his name, went 2 for 2 on extra points and knocked through a 25 and a 45-yard field goal.
Ramiz Ahmed.
Yep, so that's a little bit of a positive note for you guys.
Although Mason Crosby has the job.
Easily.
These guys are just kicking to basically show off their talents for other teams and to help get us through the preseason.
You do love to see it, though. Kickers making field goals. It's good stuff. So that will be our episode for this week. Stay tuned until next week when we do our preseason week 3 recap. And then we'll probably take a quick bye week with the NFL and then jump straight into week 1 of the regular season. So subscribe if you like it, and hit the like button on this video if you liked this one. But until next time, don't forget
to eat the W.